by Ticky Fullerton. Ticky, the exit polls suggest a majority of 86 for Boris Johnson, but the Sky News experts, the number crunchers, suggesting that that red wall, that Labor red wall that we spoke about in the north of England, won't be just demolished, it's going to be obliterated, with even Sedgefield, Tony Blair's old seat, likely to go, according to the early numbers.
Now, and that being very ironic because Tony Blair, along with Mandy P. Mandelson, both Labour, both great Europhiles, have, by all reports, been working incredibly hard with the Europeans, the Michel Barniers of this world, the great negotiators, Jean-Claude Juncker, all these great Project Europe as well people. So I think that'll be particularly galling for Tony Blair, won't it? But look, this is an extraordinary night, Kieran. We should say the exit polls are exit polls. They're not real polls. But in Britain, in recent times, the exit polls have proved to be very accurate. Now, we've already seen Blythe has gone to surprise, off to the Tories from Labour, and this is looks like it's very much set to continue. It is an extraordinary majority for Boris Johnson and gives him a huge mandate on Brexit. Now, really interestingly, in terms of European negotiations, because that's obviously the top of the list, is to, once you get through the first phase of Brexit and you organise the withdrawal, it's actually renegotiating that trade agreement with Europe. Michel Barnier has been saying, the chief negotiator has been saying in the last 24 hours, oh no, the sort of timetable, it'll be much longer than a year to actually nut down any deal. Well, this sort of mandate, it'll be very interesting to see how the Europeans respond to this sort of mandate, because it's a very different one from Theresa May, if you remember, who gave up so much. That was clawed back by Boris. Now he's got this big mandate for Brexit.
And Ticky, whether you're a British person who wanted to remain or to leave, the drama of the last 4 years would lead to a great sense of relief, I think, across the board, that finally there's a bit of certainty. We certainly saw that with investors, didn't we, with the pound sterling surging a couple of percentage points.
Extraordinary, yeah, and once again, very interesting to see what the Canadian governor of the Bank of England will have to say about this, because he hasn't been a great Brexiteer, as we all know. But this is an endorsement of the strategy that it's enough now. We need some certainty. This is one of the great financial centres of the world. And I think investors believe that now there is clarity on what will happen. There's a belief in the leadership, I think, as well. And you've seen that in the confidence with the pound. So if you're booking anything for Christmas or early New Year, flying over there, you're a bit late. But I think, I think that is very important. But obviously there'll be lots of column inches written about why and how this has happened. I think the fear of business in Britain and internationally of a Corbyn-style government with some of the plans that he had for high spending and that sort of thing, and semi-privatised nationalisation was one thing. But I think the Get Brexit Done, that simple, clear message, and the appeal of Boris Johnson, I think three factors have thrown this way.
And Ticky, before we go back to our colleagues in London, I do want to ask you about the worldview now under Johnson, because it's not just about getting a new deal done with Europe, is it? It's about turning their attention to others, including us here, in terms of a free trade agreement. And I know from talking to British officials in this country, that's going to be on their radar very, very soon in 2020.
It is indeed, and we were just listening to our colleagues at Sky London and the former Speaker, John Bercow, saying, oh, well, the whole thing could be pulled out a little bit more and Brexit could take much longer to do. Maybe that's what those guys in London would love. There'd be more to talk about, but I think this will now be very much fast-tracked to the extent it's possible. And if you look at Boris Johnson's manifesto, it was definitely to actually get the trade deal with the EU next year, implementation period following the UK's exit at the end of December, and that won't be extended, and then new deals with free trade agreements starting with the USA, Australia, New Zealand and Japan. And given Donald Trump's propensity for trade deals and how maybe difficult he can be to actually get one over the line, one would think that Australia would be front of the queue because it would be a very easy, relatively easy, deal to get done. It would be one in the pocket of both Australia and, importantly, Boris Johnson to say, here, look at this. And we've got so much in common, Kieran, in terms of opportunities there, particularly for small business, because the big businesses obviously go and do their stuff anyway, but particularly for small businesses, but in areas like infrastructure, fintech, and defence, there are tremendous opportunities.
Ticky, we'll chat next hour.